Hello and welcome back to the GorillaBiker on another commute home on Stromboli. Ooh. And today we're talking about this V-Strom. It's a 2015 Suzuki V-Strom 1000, of course. And the reason we're talking about it is I think people are a bit silly when it comes to bikes. Like, honestly speaking, the V-Strom is currently probably the best all-around road bike I have ever owned. And I don't even have bags on it yet. It's just a really good bike, you know. It's like, it's good on fuel, it's super comfortable, it's pretty fun in like turny twisty roads. And I'm saying pretty fun because I haven't actually gotten to experience as many turny twisty roads as I would like yet on it, because I don't live somewhere where there are lots of them. But I know it's fully capable from what I have done, just because the brakes are there, the suspension is there, and all from stock for a big person, you know. And I'll tell you what kind of brought this video up is, you know, obviously, well, number one, I'm obviously very happy that people are excited that I bought the Z900RS. I am excited that I bought the Z900RS. I still go out and just look at it in the evenings. Oh, look at a big plane, an Antonov. Oh, it's the Antonov. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that is so cool. I don't want to die, but that's really cool. Hopefully I don't get shot. That's really cool. That Antonov is like, I think the biggest like shipmenty plane in the world. Oh, that's so cool. I can't believe I got to see that. Awesome! I must check when it's back here next and actually bring my camera and try to get some photos of it. But yeah, what's brought this video about is, you know, like I said, super happy that everyone's happy I bought a Z900RS. Except to like 3 or 4 people who disliked that video. And what I have to say to you is this. Suck it. I own a Z900RS and you don't. But no, that's only for the people who disliked it, because honestly I don't know what you can dislike about that video. It's just me being like, yay, I got one of my dream bikes, hooray for me, that with money that I earned that nobody gave me. I really don't know how you could dislike that video, other than if it's just, you think it's just a bad video, which in which case, I mean, fair enough actually. If you just think it was a bad video, I rescind my finger gesture. That kind of sounds dirty. But yeah, other than that, there was some really weird messages I got, and I'm not sure how people thought they'd be like well received. It doesn't make sense to me, because like there was a couple of people who messaged, and one of them, like in comments that you could still find on Facebook if you wanted to, who were just like, oh, I'm so happy about the Z900RS, I hate the V-Strom, it's a piece of shit, etc. And I'm like, you know, I still own the V-Strom, I still really like the V-Strom, I'm still going to ride the V-Strom a lot more than the Z900RS, because, like, let's be honest, it's a bigger, comfier bike. It's on par, kind of better on fuel, and I'll explain that in another video at some point, but it's just a super nice place to be on this V-Strom, you know, and they're bulletproof, etc. You know what I mean? It's just great. But I also just don't understand why anyone would ever think that I'd be like, oh yeah, thanks buddy, you just insulted basically one of my children. You know, it's like, it'd be like me turning up to your house and being like, oh my god, your child is the ugliest creature I have ever seen. How did you and your, you know, significant other create this monstrosity? Haha. It's okay because I said haha at the end, you know what I mean? No, of course people are going to be kind of like, what? Why would you say that? You know what I mean? It's a strange one. It's a strange one to me, and I don't really understand why people would pull that out. But anyway, the point of this whole thing is, and to use a term that I've seen used over here in America, is slept on. And I don't know am I using that term correctly. I think I am, but I think people are sleeping on the V-Strom 1000. I'm not with the modern lingo, you know. Well, I'm never really with any lingo. I read books, that's where I get my words from. That's why sometimes I occasionally sound smart, but actually I'm an idiot, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, the important thing is, this is a really good bike. And I think what's happened is people look at bikes with every bell and whistle and they're like, hey, the V-Strom 1000 sucks because it's not closer to that bike, but realistically 95% of people don't actually want or need the stuff on the bigger, fancier bike. And it kind of brought me thinking in my head, you know, like, oh, bikes keep getting more expensive, etc., and that sucks. But have we kind of brought it on ourselves? Because, I mean, obviously manufacturers make higher trim level cars and whatnot all the time, just because it's like, if there's a lack of availability on, you know, a lower trim model of car, people need cars, right? A lot of people obviously can't live without a car. That's how life is. People can't ride bikes. People have families. They don't want to put their families in on bikes. I understand it, right? I do understand it. And by forcing people into buying the higher trim levels, manufacturers obviously boost up their own profits in a really kind of shady way that I don't like and wouldn't support. But it's a fact of reality. It happens, okay? Now, the thing that's strange to me is bikes, motorcycles in general in the Western world, so like, you know, most of Europe, America, will say Canada. I'm going to include Australia here. I've never been to Russia, so I don't know. But there's a lot of poorer countries that motorcycles actually are a necessity. And I also think we forget that a lot when we speak on these videos. And it is very important to note that they are a tool, a daily tool for a lot of people in a lot of the world. And I think it's like India, etc. You know what I mean? They are a necessity, or people either can't afford or don't have space for cars, or whatever, you know, whatever it might be. I know people like me, I'm very lucky to be able to afford all the bikes I have. However, I haven't ever bought a bike that is just a giant bell with a whistle on it, because I like bikes that are a little bit more simple. And, you know, I think that a lot of the people who are calling the V-Strom crap are calling it crap because they're comparing it to, say, the BMW 1250 GS, the Africa Twin in a lot of cases, and they're really not the same target audience. And I think that's partially the problem with a lot of things, you know, like, for instance, you know, why can you not get a base model Gixxer 750 with bare bones that you can build out for the track yourself, make it as cheap as chips, you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing I'm getting at, is people only are buying the things. Sorry, I sneezed in my helmet. I had to pause there for a second. I hate sneezing in helmets, it sucks. People are kind of tending to buy the more expensive fancy things, which then of course lead manufacturers to make more of the expensive fancy things. And then people are like, hey, where have all the cheap simple bikes gone? Suzuki was making it all the time, you know what I mean? And the sad thing is, I think we have partially killed that off, because, you know, you have the new V-Strom 800DE, which is still pretty inexpensive, to be fair, but they're starting to add bells and whistles. And Suzuki, in my opinion, were always a fantastic company for making what a lot of people kind of viewed as a very much parts bin bike line, which some people kind of use as an insult, but I do not use it as an insult. I use it as a compliment, because, you know, if you have a different frame and you slap a cool engine into it, and then you have really good brakes that are used on your Gixxers, and you can fit them onto your V-Strom style of bike, you know, it's that's like a good parts bin, right? That's like something that's really valuable for the consumer, because number one, there's going to be lots of parts available for those bikes, because those parts were used in so many bikes, and also it will keep cost of manufacture low. Now, obviously, the cost of manufacture of the new inline twin on the V-Strom 800DE is going to be lower than the cost of manufacture on the V-twin, but I think it's a real travesty we've lost these V-twins. Yes, V-twins mean you have a longer wheelbase, it's less nimble, but I think Suzuki balanced them really, really well. I mean, the V-Strom 650 is a battle tank for the ages, and I mean, the 1000s are pretty awesome. I mean, this bike, honestly, all I have done is added the tall seat that Ian sent me. Thank you again, Ian. I will forever appreciate that. And this has become literally the perfect bike for me. It does also have SW Motec risers, actually. That is something else it does have, that do help my comfort on here. But in the grand scheme of things, this is a from stock bike from the factory floor with 2 tall mods added that make it the best tall person bike I've ever ridden, and I'm really glad it existed. I'm really glad I have one. I'm really glad they made them, because without them there would be a gap in the market, you know what I mean? I don't want a 1250 GS, well, not that I don't want one, I can't afford one. S1000XR, also out of my price range. You know, you're talking bikes that are mid 20,000s in comparison to something that I believe this model MSRP was like 15,000-16,000. That is a humongous difference, because once you add on your bags, your exhaust, all that stuff, you know, you have 10,000 in the difference. It's a huge amount of money. I mean, if you ever want to look at it, like, see how long it takes you to pay off 10,000 to like 300 a month. It's a long time. You know, 10,000 euro, dollars. It's a lot of money. And I just think that it's that kind of thought process that, oh, that's crap. Because you know, it's same as the Gixxers. People were like, oh, I'd never buy the Gixxer, they haven't been updated in too long. Who cares? Who cares? If that kept the cost low, fan-bloody-tastic. Let's do more of that. Let's do minor tweaks, minor improvements throughout a generation cycle. Why do we not make one generation of bike for 10 years and just keep it at a really nice low price, so if someone can use it for 5 years in and out to work every day, use it up and then just buy another one? You know, why is it, or put a new engine into it, even better? Why is it that there's this drive to make sure that all of the bikes are matched to the luxury high-end brands that, like, let's be honest with ourselves, we can't afford? It's also something else that baffles me about over here, is that, you know, people will put fancy ass vehicles and stuff on like 72, you know, 84-month loans. I think there's like 90+ month loans now. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. I don't understand it. I don't understand why someone would think that is an okay amount of time to be paying for something that's a depreciating asset. So really, it's not an asset, it's just a cost. It's something that's going to cost you money every month of every year for like 5, 6, 7 years, however long you put it on. And that doesn't make sense to me, unless it's earning money. You know what I mean? If you're buying a work truck to be able to earn money, then okay, it makes sense. But in this scenario, it really doesn't. I don't know why that dude flashed me. I thought it was like maybe a cop ahead. But I think a lot of people also flash when they're in low cars, because the V-Strom is kind of tall and they're like, oh, you have your full lights on. I don't have my full lights on. I can put them on for you if you'd like. Yeah, I don't think he was warning me about anything. It's pretty weird. I don't know. Strange. But anyway, I just think it's kind of really poor that, you know, there's people who look at the V-Strom and they can't look past the fact that it's a pretty simple bike in the grand scheme of things. I understand some people don't like the looks of it, but looks are subjective. I think it's actually quite a good looking bike. I know a lot of people think it's a good looking bike. I personally am not a fan of the looks of many bikes. For instance, I know a lot of people prefer the older generation of V-Strom, whereas I am not a fan of the older generation of V-Strom. Not that I wouldn't own one. I will recant that I previously said. I definitely would own one, but I just never particularly loved the front end of them. Whereas I actually quite like the beaky front end on this. It kind of looks a little bit meaner, especially with the engine bars that are on this one. But you know, that's kind of all I really have to say about it. Is I just think it's a massive pity that we as a biking community have kind of turned our noses up at a lot of the simpler bikes out there, that kind of have caused them to die off. And I know I'm being dramatic. I know the V-Strom 1000D is going to be there and all that stuff, but they're not the same. You know, it's not that simple, time-honored, what are you doing V-twin design that has been around for so long, that we all, what are you, on a corner, good job. That person's insane. Give these crazy people their space. I don't want anything to do with them. on a corner. You overtake like that on a corner. That's super smart, my friend. Super smart. I mean, I wasn't under the speed limit, we'll say, but I wasn't going very fast. I also wasn't under the speed limit. I was just chilling out in my home. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's just what I wanted to kind of address, is that, I mean, if you're looking for a cheaper, time-honored bike in the next few years, and you're like, oh, where have they all gone? Maybe we should all look at ourselves and be like, hey, maybe it was our fault. Maybe we all kept chasing all the new fandangles and the new fancy bikes, and that's where they've gone. I can sleep easy at night knowing it wasn't me, because I've never bought a new bike in my life. So I am actually a part of the problem too. I would love to buy a new bike. I mean, I would have bought a Tenere 700 new, but there was just none in stock anywhere, and they were buffing up the prices too. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say. And also, I'd really like your opinions. Do you think, like, that people unfairly denigrate and have been denigrating Suzuki for years? Personally, I think the fact that they didn't do too much to the Gixxer 1000, kept its price point below 20k, actually much below 20k. You know, the Gixxer 750, Gixxer 600s also didn't update them, but also kept the prices pretty low in comparison to a lot of other stuff in the market. They also kept selling them, you know, unlike the Yamaha R6, which I still am disappointed in Yamaha for doing that, pulling it. But, you know, I get it, people weren't buying them, whatever. But, like, that's another thing, you know, you have to take your hat off to Suzuki. You know, they obviously have had financially hard times the last few years, but they never stopped making the bikes that we all loved. Well, that lots of us loved. I personally am a huge Suzuki fan. So yeah, let me know what's your opinion. Do you think that it is kind of the bike community's fault at large for going after the kind of the pie in the sky bikes, instead of just actually looking at what they need and what they're going to use? I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to daily ride an Aprilia V4 Tuono, but it would in no way make more sense than this, and I would have probably on the way to and from work just as much fun on this, maybe a little bit more fun on the V4, to be fair. It would definitely sound better because it's a V4, so, you know, V4 is the best engine configuration. But anyway, that's it. If you watched, thank you very much for watching. I do very much appreciate it, always and forever. A special thank you, as always, to all of my patrons. I do appreciate, love you all. And yeah, just honestly, just let me know what your opinion is. And also, just as a reminder, it is really not okay to openly tell someone that you think their bike is shit and expect them to just be like, okay, this is a normal conversation. Also, the person who like openly called my bike crap didn't answer my question when I asked them what bike they rode, because I probably would have had some opinions on it. I have opinions on most bikes. And to be fair, most of them are good. It is very rare you get a bad bike these days, or in history. There was, I know I was supposed to have ended this video already, but I'm going with it. I know historically there have been legitimately bad bikes, like from a braking perspective, performance perspective, reliability perspective, but I think even the bad ones generally had something that was kind of really cool for them that still made most people love most of them. Obviously there are some out there that are not great. Personally, I have never been a fan of the Honda DeVille. It's not a bike I would ever own. That's not to say that it is a great bike for some people, it's just that there is no feature that would attract me to it as a bike. But, I mean, there's still lots of them on the road, so that'll tell you. They were good for someone, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's actually it. Thank you again for watching, I do appreciate it. Adios. Outro crew. What is one bike that you would never ever buy? Let me know. I'm genuinely interested. I want to know what, because like it's really hard to tell what sort of a bike that people just like. It's really easy to know what people would buy. You know, you have your Harley addicts, your Yamaha addicts, etc. You know, I'm not going to keep going through them all. What's a bike that you would never ever consider buying ever? Let me know in the comments. Bye, outro crew.